you're not supposed to hear that many opinions about yourself. You're not supposed to think about that many people knowing you. That's just like not easy to comprehend. And so the easiest thing for me to do is literally just shut off my phone and pretend sometimes it doesn't exist.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for making the time for us.
Thank you so much for having me again.
Congratulations!
Excited.
Congratulations on the bunch of nominations, including Artist of the Year and Single of the Year.
Crazy. Yeah.
How's that?
I mean, amazing. It's such an honor. Um, yeah, it's like crazy. You hear about all your favorite Canadian artists um, doing the Junos when you're younger, and to be living through it now, it's very cool.
I would like to think that Tate McRae at the Junos would have won the week in terms of press, but it didn't, because when you Google your name this week, all that comes up is that you might have a psychic ability. I just want to play people this clip.
Wait, this is football, right? I think it's gonna be, wait, 70 and, no. Okay, it's gonna be 40 and 22.
Who's winning?
Obviously Philly.
That is Tate McRae years ago, accurately predicting the score of this year's score of this year's Super Bowl. What's the story behind that video?
Okay, to be clear, I didn't really know what I was talking about. I didn't know anything about football. But it was funny. It was like in 2023, a girl just asked me, she was like, if the Eagles make it to the Super Bowl, which at the time, I think this would have been their first Super Bowl back, or I don't know. I literally don't know. And she was like, if they make the Super Bowl, what's the score going to be? And that's what I said. And it's funny because I actually in life do have, I think I'm a little clairvoyant. Like I do think that happens quite a few times in my life where I'll like say something and it definitely does happen, or I'll like dream something. So that was just funny because I was like, I really don't know anything about football.
What's your life been like this past week ever since that video came out?
You know, it's just like another thing on top of just like a busy week. Just I was like woke up being like, what is going on? Like, why do I have stickers on my face in this video that I'm seeing literally everywhere? So it was just another crazy news thing.
Well, I'm happy to talk about that, but I'm more than happy to talk about this record, which I really loved. Let's start with the first single I heard off the record. Take a listen to this. Really good, Tate. That's Sports Car. It's a great song.
Thank you.
I was telling you that when I first listened to it. So I'm 37, and that it reminded me of that era of pop music that I would have heard in high school and in university, kind of like circus era, Britney Spears, Pussycat Dolls. Was this intentional? Was this something you were thinking about? The sound you were thinking about?
I think for a lot of the record, obviously, that sound of music is so intriguing to me as a dancer because those beats and the way that type of music, the chords made me feel as a dancer just sparks a lot of inspiration in me for shows and videos. Actually, when we wrote this song, we were referencing the Yang Yang twins, the Whisper song.
Yeah, I remember. I cannot. I was about to sing it. I can't sing any of it on the radio, but yeah,
No,
I know
you
that song.
can't.
Yeah.
Julia had just been, I was working with Julia Michaels, and she'd just been dying to like make a pop song that was a whisper chorus. And obviously it was a very terrifying task for me because I love a melody, but it was really funny. But yeah, a lot of that inspiration was for the whole album.
One of the things I found when you were talking about this song was, and we talked sort of about this in another way a few years ago, that on TikTok you talked about how it wasn't you who wrote this song, it was Tatiana. So let's go through it. Who's Tatiana?
You know what? I think you were one of the first people I talked to about Tatiana. It was honestly just like a made up alter ego that I always wanted my name to be Tatiana because I thought it was like, because I always felt like my name was too like boyish. Like it was too like Tate. So when I was younger, I was like, why can't my name be Tatiana? And so whenever I go on stage and this like very feminine and um confident persona comes out, I call her Tatiana.
What I saw on TikTok was that she helped you write that song.
I do think that because I was kind of touring this whole year, and whenever I get into the studio, it was like shortly after a performance or I feel like I was still in that zone of performing and being in that alter ego part of my body. So I feel like that alter ego did influence a lot of my songs just because I hadn't quite snapped back into my introverted Tate body yet.
Why do you need an alter ego? Like, do you know what I mean?
I honestly just think there are two different sides to my personality. I have one side that's very shy and introverted and it's a very small circle, like keeps things very tight to me, like very spiritual and whatever. And then I have this other side of me that's the performer side of me. And I think that's the person that like I put on as like I don't know, it's like your armor. It's like how you feel good on stage. It's how you like convince yourself that this isn't crazy. Like sometimes it's hard to wrap your head around like being in front of 20,000 people sometimes. And that's the way that it feels for me. That's how it feels perfectly normal is when I put on this persona. It's like, oh, this is meant to happen instead of it being terrifying.
Can you tell me more about that? Like, I'm interested to hear about the armor side of it. It sounds like the Tatiana kind of protects you a little bit.
I always like pray before I go on stage and I say like, put me in my like beam of light and I feel like I literally go into a different body. Like I don't like really remember how things go or what I act like on stage because I feel like I'm in a different body.
So by having another name, it just allows you to be like, okay, Tatiana can take care of it. Like Tate can't do this show. Tate's too scared to do this show. Tate's too woo woo to do this show. It's all seriousness. Like, but you know what? Tatiana can do it.
Yeah, I think it's just like the zone that you get into. It's my competitive side, it's my feistier side, it's my I don't give a fuck side. It's all the sides of me that is a lot more fearless than my everyday side. And I think that's to me it helps me like justify like how crazy things I can do or dance moves or when you when I go crazy on stage sometimes I'm just like I don't really know what I'm doing. I could be doing the most and if I give it to another character I feel like it seems a little more normal to me.
Not to psychoanalyze you, but I find it very interesting that there's a part of you, or maybe this is a very Canadian part of you, that's like, what am I doing up there? Or like,
Of course. It's like I think obviously every person has so many like layers of an onion. Like we all have different sides and pieces of our personality. And there is like the side when I go home for Christmas and I'm with my family and I'm with my older brother and I'm with my mom and dad and my grandparents. That is just a completely different identity than like my pop persona because there are so many things I want to do in art and so many things I want to try. And I want it to be I don't want there to be a limit. I don't want me to be scared. I don't want to be freaked out by anything or feel judged. I just kind of want to do whatever comes. And so I think I do have to put myself into a zone in order to get to that point.
one of the things you talked about when you were making this record or talking about this record is some of this album has to do with or was inspired by the idea of having firsts, like firsts that are feelings for you, maybe adult relationships or experiences that are firsts for you. I wasn't sure I understood it. Can you explain that to me?
I think for the first time as a 21-year-old girl, especially since this year was one of the first years on tour where I actually danced. It was my first tour dancing.
What do you mean?
Like before this, I didn't dance on tour. I was just like singing. So yeah, it seems weird, right?
But you're a dancer.
I am a dancer, but they were like two separate like identities for me for a while. I didn't like ever mesh the two together because my music didn't really allow for that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, last year was the first time I kind of danced and, you know, I felt like came into this alter ego character and also felt like a woman for the first time. I've been talking about this a lot recently, how I think I experienced the feelings of being like, oh, I'm a woman now. Like I'm not a teenager. I feel confident. I feel excited. I feel like I want to empower other girls. And that was the first time that ever like mattered to me. But then I said it was also the first time that I felt the reaction of that, and the the criticism and the judgment of being a woman, that feeling of, people judging your every move, whatever you wear, how you act, how you present yourself. And that was really interesting just to feel that for the first time.
This is really interesting to me. I'll say it back to you to make sure I understand it because I'm a little dumb. But like so there was a couple of firsts. One was that you were dancing on tour, which is wild that you weren't doing that before. Because to me, you're like as much a dancer as you are a singer.
Yeah.
Um, but the really interesting one is that because you started when you were 12 and you were a teenager for a lot of your early success in pop music, that
Yeah.
when you turn at 21, you start to look in the mirror and go like, oh, I'm grown up. I'm a woman
Mhm.
now. That feels great. I have a different, I don't know, different energy. I have a different way about me. I look different. I feel different. And
Yeah.
then because of the world that we live in, by being a grown up, by being a woman right now, you are susceptible to different kinds of criticism than you were getting before. Am I right?
Totally. And it's a pretty like conflicting thing because you're um figuring out how to move, how to act, how to feel like you like feel reborn again a little bit. This could be me just like psychoanalyzing life a little bit too
Please,
much,
dude.
but
That's what this. Look at this beard. That's what this interview is for, buddy.
right. I mean, I sometimes I just felt like I'm like, oh, like this is the way I'm gonna talk now, and this is the way I'm gonna feel. And I wake up today and I feel like this. And it's a beautiful thing to figure yourself out and do this, but then having opinions come at you at the same time is really confusing because you're trying to figure out who you are and what makes you happy and what makes you feel good. And then you get so many other people's opinion of that coming in at the same time. And that's just a confusing thing growing up.
It sounds nightmarish, to be honest. But I want to talk more about that. Before I want to talk about one more song on the record. I was really struck by the last song on the record by Nostalgia.
Yeah.
Who tell me about that song? Who were you writing about in that song?
I was for sure writing about myself. I think just feeling like I was stuck living in the present or the past and never able to like actually feel present in any situation. Um, and I was talking to my dad in Barcelona one day. He came to like on tour, and I do this thing with my family where I'll just like quiz them with like a million questions. And be like, okay, your biggest whatever in your life, or your biggest regret, or and he was just saying like, oh, like I've always wanted to be an architect. Like that was my big dream. And I was like, so then why weren't you an architect? And he was like, well, I didn't think it was like possible at the time. It didn't seem like the right option and the right thing to do. And he was like, but that's why me and your mother, like, have raised you to always follow your dreams and follow your passions and make sure that you don't ever live with that regret. And I thought that was such a, like, just a interesting conversation. And it sparked this song of being like, oh, like, you only see it when it's gone. You only, realize it when everything's over and you're past it. And uh, that was just such a perfect way to like, I think, end the album.
Did you play the song for your dad?
I did, and he's gay. He's 53, but with the rhyme,
Oh yeah, you call him 60 in the
I
in
call
the.
him. He's super offended, so I don't know if
Oh,
he really fucks with the song,
okay,
but
okay. Besides the age, you aging him 7 years, did he? What did he make of the sentiment in the song?
I mean, obviously, my parents were like, "This is a really beautifully written song," but they were they were both like so distracted by the fact that I just like fully called them out in this song that they haven't. That's all they bring up every time we talk about it.
Well,
So
what I get from that is that you can't protect anyone from regret. Your dad can have his own regrets, and he can raise you with the idea of not having any regret. But in the song, you're talking about how, hey, I still have it too.
yeah, and I think like in the song, I talk about the idea of just being 3 steps ahead of everything. Like I feel like one of my coping mechanisms is I'll like try and save myself from situations where like from heartbreak or getting hurt, or I'll try to like mentally prep like so far ahead. And I think that's also a really damaging thing as well because you're stuck living in this living in the future and not actually experiencing what's happening at this moment.
I want to go back to what you were talking about getting all these opinions kind of thrown about you all the time. And I was thinking about the fact that I was listening to nostalgia, writing down notes, trying to sort of scrutinize it, trying to figure out what could be a real story, just trying to get ready for this conversation. And that used to just be the domain of people like me who are paid to do that kind of thing. And
Mhm.
now, given the world that we live in, lyrics, any sort of details about yourself, an angle of a photo, a picture of you and somebody else, is scrutinized to the hilt. I mean, whether it's social media or TikTok or Dumois. What do you do to kind of guard yourself against that kind of scrutiny that you mentioned earlier?
I mean, I think it's inevitable. It happens. Um, I was like watching an interview of Taylor Swift the other day, and she was like, "You just have to realize it's a part of the job. Like this is what you sign up for. You're, it's going to happen. You're also putting yourself on display, so you can't really complain. Um, but I do think you just like can't look like you're not supposed to hear that many opinions about yourself. You're not supposed to think about that many people knowing you. That's just like not easy to comprehend. And so the easiest thing for me to do is literally just shut off my phone and pretend sometimes it doesn't exist. I think all you can do is make art, put it out there, make more art, put it out there, and keep being creative. And that's what makes me happy. And that's what is the thing that keeps my job going. So the rest of that I feel like is just stuff that makes me anxious for no reason. And I think that I try my best to avoid it, even though it's hard, but I do try my best.
I'd love to know the specifics there. And I asked Camila Cabello about this. This is also someone who's gotten a lot of scrutiny, a lot of everything, all of her details of her life are scrutinized online.
Yeah.
What is your phone hygiene? Like, what is your how often do you use it? Like, what is your way of not doing all that stuff you were talking about?
It's addicting, right? Like sometimes you can get addicted to like torturing yourself because I think you can feel like if I know it and I've seen it all, then nothing can hurt me. Like if I've seen the worst of the worst, like there's nothing to worry about. Um, but then you realize that you're like going to bed at night still thinking about it. um, so I think I mean, I just try to don't search up my name online ever, like anywhere. Um, if I see a video, I honestly just scroll really fast past it because regardless if it's good or bad, it weirds me out. Like seeing your face that much like weirds you out. I also just like think that performances used to be just you and the audience and like without social media and all this. It used to be just the artist and the audience and that energy and that's it. And there wasn't the aftermath of the TikToks and the angles and the broadcasts. It was just very much in the moment. And I think that's all the performances should be. I think if you like watch too many videos of yourself performing or try to, it really takes away the joy of performing.
Can I tell you this? What's really interesting is that I talked to you first in 2022, and then it's been almost yearly since then that you and I have had a conversation. And what it's done is it's given me an opportunity to kind of get in on the ground floor with someone who became a really big international pop star. Like I met you right at sort of the cusp of it. You had started having TikTok success, and really interesting watching your answers sort of change as you get older and as you get different. I just want to point this out. I once asked you about that. And your
Mhm.
answer was, I just put my phone down. I don't go near it anymore. Or this has nothing to do with my art. My art is dancing and singing. This has nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
You said something along the lines of like you feel this pressure back in 2023, I think, Lise, was it? Yeah. You felt
Yeah.
this pressure to put out content all the time, to work
Mhm.
at TikTok, work at it, work at it, work. You said I didn't really like it, but I have to do it. I feel this pressure to
Yeah.
do it all the time. What changed?
At the end of the day, the music is the number one thing. I think like back then I did have a different relationship with TikTok because I didn't really see myself ever on TikTok. Like there's just I see a lot more obviously being on tour and seeing your face a lot. Like um it's I don't know, it's just it's social media is just it's sometimes it gets a little weird. Like it's a little like mind fucky. Like I'm just
Yeah,
like this
but like
like
what changed? Was there a day where you went like I can't do this anymore, or?
it's I still go on social media. It's still a thing. It's just like sometimes sometimes you realize that as things start to grow and you get more fans, like the opinions start to like really make you lose your love for all of this. Like I sometimes I'll if I'm on my phone too much and I'm on tour and I'm seeing things like I forget what it's like to enjoy being like on
Yeah,
stage.
man. Yeah.
You start to micro analyze like, oh my God, now I need to like put my shoulders back and I need to smile this way and the right side of my face doesn't move. And so I need to, and there's just like weird things you pick up on that take away from the reason why you do it, which is the fact that it's really fun and you enjoy it. And I think that's the difference is like I'm just doing it a lot more now. I'm seeing a lot more of myself, and I just don't want it to ever affect the art because that's what all at the end of the day, it's all I care about. I don't really care about since I've been younger, like I've never really looked at my face that hard or looked at my body that hard or looked at the way I moved that hard. I've just like felt it and just enjoyed dancing and enjoyed singing. So I don't think it's meant to be that dissected.
Yeah, man. I know. I'm stuck by what you said there. You said like it robs me of the ability to enjoy it. This amazing thing I get to do to get up and sing
Yeah,
for all these people. It robs me of my ability to enjoy it.
totally.
First time we ever got to talk, it was over right behind me, right there in the studio.
Hmm.
And I showed you a video from So You Think You Can Dance where Paula Abdul called you a gift from God. What was interesting was that when I asked you what you made of that moment, this
Yeah.
is what you said to me.
It honestly just like it makes me feel like I was like, oh, I wish I could have processed that in the moment. Because in the moment, I was just like, it's a competition. Like, sometimes compliments don't always like stick when you're like in that kind of headspace. And I'm like, that's really special. It's very, very cool that that even like happened. And she even said that.
I mean, throughout the years that we've talked, it sounds like you've been moving so fast, you've had an inability to be present in the moment, just to think about the next thing that
Yeah.
happens. Paula Abdul complimented me. Yeah, it didn't really affect me. I just kept going. You played
Mhm.
Saturday Night Live, and what award show was it the same weekend?
Billboard Music
Yeah,
Awards.
Billboard Music Awards. And I said, what was that like? And you said, I didn't really think about it that much. I just had so much to do. I just kept going. Has that changed? Have you been able to make some time to be present for what life is now?
One tip that my therapist told me is um because things do move really fast and you also are in a mode where you're like, let's focus, let's nail this, whatever. Is just anytime you get to sound check or get to a place, try to like pick up on every lining of the walls and every detail of the room and remember what it looks like, what it feels like, what it smells like. I remember doing that at SNL, like, standing at sound check, being like, what color are things? What do people look like? What's this? How far is this camera away from me? And it did help me remember way better the moment and remember the feeling very specifically. So I try to do that as much as possible. Is really look around me and see what it's like.
Why? Why the change? Why the change from I'm on the treadmill, let's keep going to I want to figure out how to be present?
Because these moments are sick. They're so cool. Like to be on Saturday Night Live and to play for 20,000 people and experience things for the first time. Like my therapist I'm like whatever. My therapist also told me you'll never experience the beginning of something ever again. Like your first time playing an arena, your first time going on this show, even though it feels like you're like a newbie and no one cares and there's all these insecurities and like the adrenaline of the first time is so special. And if you don't take it in, you're gonna again, 5 years are gonna pass and you're like, oh, I was so cute and pure back then. And and it just always happens. Like you say the same thing at every point in your life. And um just my memory is strong and I remember the exact feeling, that's when it like makes me feel like I at least processed it a little bit.
I'm glad you're getting a chance to be present in this wild little life you concocted for yourself.
Yeah, I'm trying.
Thanks for talking to me. Always a joy to talk to you.
Thank you so much. So good to talk to you again.
I always
You're the
love.
best.
Oh, you're the best. Get out of here.